As we do math today, it's going to be basically a review over bar graphs. I introduced bar graphs yesterday with pictographs. Today is just going to continue to build and add on to that. So this is going to actually be a quick and short math lesson. On Google Forms, you're going to find your application problem that you're going to complete. I did not do the application problem. It had to deal with bar graphs, and I'm going to make up an application problem, and you're going to be able to do it on your own. So your application problem you're going to be able to find in Google Forms, and don't forget to do that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through using this data right here, this chart and table, and we're going to make a bar graph. And you are going to create your own bar graph using the table that I have given you. So you're going to create a bar graph for today. And then I would just like you to get on Zern and just do a little bit of Zern for about 15 minutes. So let's look at what I have on this whiteboard real quick. Okay, so again, this is a review of bar graphs. I said, well, let's see what animals we have. We have a dog, a cat, and fish. How many students had dogs? Excuse me. How many students had dogs? 5 students had dogs. 4 students had cats, and 6 students had fish. Now today in our bar graph, I decided the number's not too high, so we're going to count up by ones. So when I drew this, I gave it a title, because don't forget that all graphs need a title, so I labeled it animals. And then I did my X and my Y axis. So as I am making these lines to start out with, I label this side over here. This is the number of animals, and you can see I started at 0. I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and this horizontal line stands for the animals that we're talking about. We're talking about dogs, cats, and fish. And when you do a bar graph, remember this one is going to be a vertical bar graph where you are doing rectangles. So my first animal is dogs. I go and look at dogs. Dogs is 5. So I'm going to start at the 0 line, and I'm going to go up to that line that says 5. I'm going to draw a bar, and I'm going to shade it in. And I have shown now that there are 5 dogs. I look at cats. Cats, there are 4 cats. So again, I'm going to draw my rectangle for my bar, fill it in, shade it in, and I have that bar completed. And my final bar that I have to make is fish. So I'm going to look at fish. There's 6. It goes all the way to the top. And then to finish it off, I shade it in. Now I could answer questions based off of the data that I show on my bar graph. I could ask questions based off of the picture on my bar graph. But I'm more concerned about being able to take this data and to make or create a bar graph. So your job today is going to be to use data from a table and to turn it into a bar graph. I'm going to write that up on the easel, and once you get that and you're able to look at it, then you're going to create your own bar graph at home. As you can see on the whiteboard, I have written down the table that you're going to use to create your bar graph. Don't forget that you need a title for your bar graph. And just like you guys did yesterday when you were sending me pictures of your drawings, you can do the same. You can create this bar graph, and then you can send a picture to me to show me the bar graph. The table is about types of bugs. You can see that I have butterflies listed, spiders, bees, and wasps. The number of butterflies that were counted were 5. The number of spiders, 14. The number of bees, there were 12. And the number of wasps, there were 7. Using this table, create a bar graph. And that's what you're going to do for math. Please don't forget that you're going to do a bar graph, and your application problem can be found on Google Forms. Other than that, do Zern for about 15 minutes. Our activity and challenge today is actually going to be an activity for everybody. As you look at your Google Forms, or if you get on the website, that I have created, you're going to find a link to take a virtual roller coaster ride. You're going to do about a 2-3 minute virtual roller coaster ride, and that is going to be your activity today, is sitting and taking that virtual roller coaster ride. Have fun and enjoy the ride. We've come to one of my favorite times where it is our read aloud time. Yesterday we read chapter 5 of Junie B., first grader, Toothless Wonder. We're on chapter 6 today, Full of Soup. That night Daddy tucked me into bed. He said that Polly Ann Puffer's brother's full of soup. "There's no such thing as a tooth witch, Junie B.," he said. "I promise you there isn't. Polly Ann Puffer's brother just made that up to scare Polly Ann. And then Polly Ann said it to scare you, too." I shook my head. "No, Daddy, no. It's not made up. I know it isn't, 'cause the tooth witch makes sense. That's why," I said. "She makes way more sense than a fairy." Daddy raised his eyebrow. "Why?" he asked. "Why does a witch make more sense than a fairy?" "Because," I said, "because the tooth witch likes to chomp the teeth. But the tooth fairy doesn't do anything with the teeth at all, right? And so why would you even pay money for them?" Daddy did a little frown. "Well, I don't know exactly," he said, "but I'm sure that she must do something with the teeth, Junie B. There are other things to do with teeth besides just chomping them, you know." "Like what?" I asked. Daddy put his head in his hands. Then he thought and thought and thought. After he got done thinking, he went to get Mother. She came into my room carrying Fussy Ollie. She handed him to Daddy and sat down on my bed. "Daddy said you have another problem about the tooth fairy," she said. I nodded. "Yeah," I said. "'Cause if there's really a fairy, then she has to have a reason to want the teeth, right, Mother? She wouldn't just throw them in the garbage, 'cause that doesn't make any sense. Plus also, it would hurt my feelings." Mother hugged me. "No, Junie B., of course she doesn't throw them in the garbage." She said, "I'm sure the fairy does something very special with the teeth." "Like what?" I said. Mother ran her tired fingers through her hair. She stood up and walked back and forth on my rug. Then all of a sudden her face got brighter. I know! I bet the fairy uses the teeth to make jewelry," she said. At first Daddy and I didn't say many words. We just stared and stared at the woman. "Jewelry?" I said finally. Mother smiled. "Yes, of course she said. She probably uses the teeth to make little tooth necklaces and bracelets and cute little toe rings. How does that sound?" I made a sick face. "It sounds repulsive," said Daddy. Mother stopped smiling. She quick took Ollie from Daddy and she hurried out of my room. After she left, Daddy finished tucking me in for bed. I'm sorry about that, Junie B," he said. "I'm afraid Ollie has your mother worn to a frazzle these days, but I'm sure she's not right about the jewelry thing." He did a little shiver. "No, certainly she's not," he said. Then, before I could ask any more questions about the fairy, he kissed me good night, and he rushed out of the room as fast as my mother. That night I did not put my tooth under my pillow. Also, I did not put it under there the night after that, or the night after that, because what do you know? The fairy still did not make sense. And that's the end of that chapter. We'll pick up on Junie B. Jones on Tuesday when we come back from our weekend for our e-learning days. Otherwise, just keep reading, guys. Just a reminder for your homework today. You have a Google Forms. Compare and contrast the two stories of the Three Little Pigs from yesterday and Tuesday. You need to read about 30 minutes each day. You can do some Zern for about 15 minutes. You got a bar graph to create, as well as your application problem on Google Forms. Do some iReady reading. Don't forget about your writing project with your parent on a famous person. And take that virtual roller coaster ride. And again, over the weekend, find a book and read about 30 minutes. Other than that, that's a wrap for our first week of e-learning. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next Tuesday.